going on, guys? Welcome to a new series of episode reviews. This is for the new series, Demons of the Shadow Realm, and with me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yeah.
Just some background information, too. Like, Demons of the Shadow Realm was a series that was from the same creator of Fullmetal Alchemist, Hiromu Arakawa, and it's also being done by the same studio that did the original Fullmetal Alchemist and Brotherhood. And I think it also, I could be wrong, but I think I heard somewhere that a lot of the same staff that worked on. Um, I'm not sure if it was Brotherhood or the original series, but some of the staff that worked on Fullmetal Alchemist is actually working on this.
Yeah,
Um,
Studio Bones is working on the series. So it's the same
right, yeah,
yeah.
but
So
I'm not sure. Like I'm saying, I think it might have been the same director and some of the people that worked on the original Fullmetal Alchemist series as well. We're also working on this. Like I said, I could be wrong about that, but I remember hearing it somewhere.
yeah.
Um,
It's funny that they released this episode like literally on I think it was like 17 years after Brotherhood first released.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a shame that like there really hasn't been like another like huge series that Arakawa's done that's been comparable to Brotherhood, but I've heard pretty good things about the manga for this, and I did start reading it like a few like maybe 4 or 5 months ago. I started reading it, so I already know some of what's going to happen. But it does have like a pretty crazy start to the story, and I mean the this episode is pretty faithful to the manga and how it starts, which is just it just basically doesn't really waste any time like really like setting up anything. It just kind of just goes right into it, and the reader, well, with the manga, like you're just left completely in the dark as to what is happening. Kind of like the main character, like he has no idea what's going on, and it's just like you're just like questioning, like, okay, what is happening here? That's how I felt reading the manga when this with what the first episode covers. But yeah, so basically, like the setup for this is these two children are born. This brother and sister are born, and they're some kind of like they're like some kind of a prophesized. They're like a prophesized brother and sister that will bring supposedly, I guess, bring some sort of calamity. And for some reason, I guess for that maybe for that particular reason, because we cut from their birth to like I think it was 17 years later, and we see that the brother is like a hunter, and then the sister is locked up, like isolated, and I guess we could assume that the reason for that is because of um, what might happen. I guess if she were to be released, so I guess that's why she's being like isolated in a cage.
Yeah, for me, like I haven't read the manga yet, so I am going into the show, like pretty new, of course, and obviously
Yeah.
blind. Um, but yeah, the entire episode just unfortunately doesn't really give you a lot of world building, nor gives you any information of like what the purpose of the brother and sister, which is Asa and Yuru.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, all we know is like Yuru grew up in this like isolated town, like somewhere. Yeah, Yuru
It's apparently somewhere deep in the mountains.
yeah, deep in the mountains, and supposedly his sister Asa, like you said, is in captivity in underground, like due to some weird village tradition, and both of them need to be protected at all costs. Just I guess due to their heritage or their power to control the demons or something like that. Um, and of course, the village itself, like like none of the people have ever gone out of the village, um, for one reason that we'll get to a little bit later. But of course, like they're always visited by this traveling merchant named Dara,
Well,
who
I also should mention you're already kind of suspicious that there is a lot more going on than what we're
yes,
presented with, because like the one of the first things we see is these two like airplanes that are every so often flying over the village, and uh Yoru refers to it as like the dragon or the dragon wind, and they just believe that they're dragons, mostly because of the planes, I guess, aren't flying at a low enough altitude for them to actually see that they're planes. So yeah, and as we find out later, the village had literally been isolated from the rest of the world by some kind of a barrier.
Yeah, and then I think during another hunting trip or something like that, Yuru takes his friend out, and then they hear. Well, they supposedly hear the dragon again, but they hear like like the sound of like the dragon having a more rhythmic tone to it, which turns out to be a helicopter. And then all of a sudden, the barrier gets destroyed, and now all of a sudden, Yuru and all the villagers can see like not only the airplane but at least a couple helicopters that are just flying into the village.
Yeah, and of course, after this, we see a bunch of like what looks like special ops forces just invade the village and just basically just start slaughtering everybody, including this one girl with braids that has the basically. Well, at first it's invisible, but it's this monster that can just eat people, and she just eats everybody except for this one little girl who's I guess going to be traumatized for life because she sees her mother just get her head just most of her body gets eaten and her head just is severed and she's covered in blood.
Yeah,
But I think her name was Gabby. But she's like, don't worry, I don't kill children. But I was just thinking that's kind of funny. But she does traumatize the children though.
yeah,
So that girl is just going to be completely like just messed up.
yeah. And of course, we go back to that traveling merchant Dara. Surprisingly, he kills off most of the soldiers that try to kill him, and
Yeah,
yeah,
we can already kind of assume that Dara is a little bit more than what he seems, especially considering he's apparently talking with somebody, and he seems to know what's going on with like the barrier, and the barrier that isolated the village for so long.
yeah. And then Yuru tries to, get to his sister down in the underground dungeon, but unfortunately she gets killed by this other woman with just wearing like, a completely black outfit with an eye patch. But
Hmm.
she reveals himself that she's, Yuru's actual sister, Asa, which initially confuses Yuru at first because he doesn't believe it, and we would have to assume that they were, at least separated from birth. Um,
Yeah.
so like, of course, like Yuru tries to attack her, but Asa ends up defending herself. But it result like she has this ability which she can deflect attacks or just like or just like has some kind of like ability just like create like I don't know some kind of like telekinetic explosion or something like that, which kind of knocks Yuru out. And at the same time,
Yeah, because he
um,
fires an arrow at her, and she just tries to deflect it with that, but she ends up like causing to like just blasting the area around him as well.
yeah, and then all of a sudden the girl that she killed, which we would assume is like the fake sister, um, unleashes some kind of shadow demon or something like that, which ends up restraining
I wasn't too sure if
Asuka.
it was the girl or the grandmother because the grandmother also wakes up from being unconscious, and then after that we see the shadow try to restrain the supposedly the real Asa.
Yeah, and then get back to Dara. Well, what was it Yuru reuniting with Dara? Just pretty much just wondering what the hell is going on and why all these people are just killing everybody. And so Dara gives Yuru what was it like a jade pendant of which represents the village's twin guardian deities called the left and the right. So he gives Yuru the medallion to place into this like little slot on the ground where the two statues are set up at. And of course, Dara just intentionally just like bashes Yuru's face onto the ground to draw out some blood, and this in turn awakens the left and the right, um, which destroy the two military helicopters attacking the village.
Yeah, and then we get to see their true form, which I will say, like, I don't know if they do get kind of like proper names later on, but from what I've read, they were just referred to as left and right. But yeah, they reveal themselves, and that's pretty much where the episode ends. Like, it was just a really fast paced episode, and it doesn't really take time to really explain much of anything. It just starts with this the slaughtering of Yoru's village and everybody in it, and we don't really get to know anything about like who any of these people are. I mean, just briefly, we get to know who like Yoru is and some of the people he knows, like just basic information. But after that, it just goes right into it with his village getting slaughtered. And it definitely seems like there's a lot of mystery to what's happening. Like there's a lot we don't know. Like with Yoru, I feel like as the viewer, we're kind of in his position where we just know about as much as he does about what's happening. But I do like the premise is that there's just this village that apparently has just been cut off due to some magical barrier from the modern world, and they've like I guess regressed to using like bows and arrows to hunt, and they don't have any kind of modern technology, and of course there's like magic involved. So I find that pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting premise. And then of course Yoru, we can assume from the way the episode ends, he's going to be kind of be in control of these the two demons, the right and the left. And apparently there are also other people who are in control of these of other like spiritual beings. Probably I guess we'd probably refer to those as demons as well, like Gabby, and we see that she has one.
Yeah.
So
We forgot to mention that Dara can also see like Gabby's spiritual, whatever that thing
yeah,
was.
yeah,
Because
because he does try to like fight it off at one point, and they also end up doubting that helicopter, so Gabby and the others won't really easily be able to get back out of the village.
yeah, all in all, it is a pretty impressive first episode. Like a little bit disappointed that it did end as quickly as it did. I was at least hoping that this would have been at least maybe a 1 hour episode, just due to
Yeah,
the
I
fact
was I
like
was gonna say the same thing. I was hoping that they would just have like a longer episode for this because um, I think that would actually be perfect because of the way the manga starts as well. Because they could just easily get past all this stuff with the village and get into well, I don't want to spoil anything, but get past all this introductory segment. They could probably just easily get past it in like 2 episodes, and they could just combine that into like one. That would have been an interesting way to do it, but I mean, I don't really mind them doing it this way. I mean, it ended in the place it ended at made sense to me. But I was hoping it would just be like a longer episode.
yeah. Yeah, so the series is going to be at least 24 episodes long, with continuous cores. But I know for right now that the manga is still ongoing. What I'm hoping is that they don't go the route of making like some random anime original ending like they did with the first Full Metal Alchemist series. Um,
I kind of doubt it.
Maybe not,
I
but
think I think it's just because like the way that anime is it comes out now is very different from how it came out back then. Like the manga was still ongoing at the time, and I think from the beginning of the original Fullmetal Alchemist series, they had already planned that it was going to have an anime original ending. So that was
possibly.
yeah. I think from what I remember hearing, that was always like the plan with that series.
Yeah.
But with Brotherhood, it was made specifically just to actually like follow the manga. So I kind of doubt that's going to happen with Demons of the Shadow Realm, because I mean, as far as I know, that's not what they were planning to do. But yeah, like you said, it's still ongoing, so who knows? They might just have this one season which would cover a certain amount of the manga, and then just I guess maybe we might get a season 2 in the future. But I mean, we'll see what they do with it. Yeah, this is definitely very different from Fullmetal Alchemist already in that it just kind of it's very fast paced as opposed to Fullmetal Alchemist. Like it did have a pretty like crazy hook in the beginning of the series with Fullmetal Alchemist, with their mother, but it was pretty slow in comparison to this. Like Fullmetal Alchemist took its time to really like world build and develop the characters, whereas this just goes right into it. But I kind of like that too. It's very different.
Yeah, I definitely. I mean, I'm pretty interested in both Yuru and Asa, concerning that they are both the as similar to like Brotherhood with Al and Ed. We also have like sibling protagonists for this series
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, it definitely seems like there are similar themes to Full Metal Alchemist, but there's some differences as well. Like, I mean, it takes place in the modern day. I mean, there's still like magic and stuff like that. The character designs are it's pretty obvious just from the character designs that it's the same mangaka that did Full Metal Alchemist, but um, there's also a lot of differences too.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I don't have much else to say about it though. I don't know if you have anything else to say.
yeah. It was a decent first episode. Like I said, I really wish that this could have been like a 1 hour episode, so we would have gotten a little bit more out of this. I did kind of wish that they would have elaborated uh on the setting, the world, like why is there
Yeah.
both like magic in the modern era,
Yeah,
supposedly.
and the thing that kind of frustrates me is that we do get a little bit of those answers. If they had actually made it a longer episode, we would have gotten at least a little bit of what's happening. But instead, we just get this first episode that just doesn't really go over any of that. So I feel like people are just going to be left asking questions as to what the hell did I just watch. But I guess that they're hoping that the premise would hook people enough to want to watch the next episode, which I think it probably will. But yeah, I do think it should have just been a longer episode.
Yeah, I also do think that people who've watched the Full Metal Alchemist series will definitely be hooked into this show as well. As for newcomers, it might be a little bit tricky, but I think it's it. I think it's still enough for for newcomers to get used to this new type of show.
But yeah, guys. So that all being said, until next time, we will see you all later.